A blue whale's heart is the size of a small car, weighing roughly 400 pounds, and it beats only 5 to 6 times per minute when the whale dives deep. 5 beats per minute. You can feel your own heart right now, tapping away at 60 or 70 beats per minute. And a blue whale's heart is moving so slowly, you could count the beats out loud between breaths. Each chamber of that heart is large enough for a human to crawl through. And when that heart pumps, it's moving 60 gallons of blood with every beat, sending it through vessels so large that a small child could swim through the aorta. Right now, somewhere in the ocean, a blue whale is diving into darkness with a heart that beats 5 times per minute. And yet it's powering the largest animal that has ever existed on Earth. Larger than any dinosaur, larger than anything in the fossil record. The biggest creature in 4 billion years of life on this planet. But that's just the beginning of what makes whales impossible. If you're new here, welcome. I'm grateful you've chosen to spend this time exploring something profound. This is a space dedicated to understanding the world's most fascinating subjects in a calm, meditative way, where knowledge becomes a companion to rest, where curiosity and peace coexist. If this resonates with you, I'd be honored if you'd subscribe. It helps these journeys continue, and it means we can explore more of these quiet mysteries together. Tonight, let's talk about whales. Not the simplified versions from documentaries, but the real creatures, beings so large and so strange that they seem to belong to a different reality entirely. Animals that return to the ocean after their ancestors had already conquered land. Creatures that sing songs across entire ocean basins and dive to depths where the pressure would crush almost anything else. The first thing you need to understand about whales is that they breathe air, just like you. They're mammals, warm-blooded, nursing their young with milk. And yet they've committed completely to life in the ocean. This means every breath is a choice, a conscious decision to surface, to break through the boundary between water and air, to exhale and inhale before diving back into the depths. A whale cannot breathe automatically, the way you do right now, unconsciously, without thinking. Every breath requires awareness, requires the whale to return to the surface, to engage with that moment of breathing. Imagine living your entire life where every breath required you to swim to a specific place, to break through a barrier, to consciously choose to inhale. Whales have been doing this for 50 million years. And this brings us to how whales sleep, which is one of the strangest adaptations in the animal kingdom. Because they must breathe consciously, whales cannot fall into deep sleep the way you're about to. Instead, they sleep with half their brain at a time. One hemisphere shuts down, resting, while the other hemisphere remains alert, keeping the whale breathing, keeping it at the right depth, maintaining awareness of its surroundings. Then, after a period of time, the hemispheres switch. The rested half takes over, and the previously alert half gets to sleep. This is called unihemispheric slow-wave sleep, and it means a whale is never fully asleep, never fully vulnerable, never completely unconscious. Part of them is always watching, always aware, always maintaining that essential connection to the air above. What must that feel like? To never experience complete surrender to sleep. To always have part of your consciousness active, monitoring, keeping you alive. We can't know, but it suggests a form of awareness very different from ours. A kind of perpetual semi-vigilance that's been the whale's reality since their ancestors first returned to the sea. Which brings us to that extraordinary evolutionary journey. Whales evolved from land mammals, four-legged creatures that walked on Earth roughly 50 million years ago. Their closest living relatives are hippopotamuses, though that relationship is distant. The ancestral whales, creatures like Pakicetus and Ambulocetus, lived along coastlines, hunting fish in shallow water, gradually spending more and more time in the ocean until, Over millions of years, they became fully aquatic. Their front legs became flippers. Their hind legs disappeared entirely, leaving only small vestigial bones buried deep in their bodies, remnants of a terrestrial past. Their nostrils migrated from the front of their snouts to the tops of their heads, becoming blowholes. Their bodies became streamlined, hydrodynamic, perfectly adapted for moving through water. And this transformation required solving problems that no other mammal had fully solved. How do you stay warm in water that conducts heat away from your body far faster than air? Whales developed blubber, thick layers of fat that insulate them from the cold, that store energy for times when food is scarce, that provide buoyancy and streamlining. Some whales have blubber layers more than a foot thick, wrapping their bodies in protection against the ocean's chill. How do you see in the murky depths where light barely penetrates? Whales developed extraordinary eyes adapted for low-light conditions, but many species rely more on sound than sight. The ocean is a world of sound, where light fails but sound travels far. And whales have become masters of acoustic sensing, using clicks and calls to navigate, to hunt, to communicate across distances that would be impossible through visual signals. How do you dive deep when the pressure increases dramatically with every meter of descent? A sperm whale can dive nearly 7,000 feet down, staying submerged for over 90 minutes, hunting giant squid in darkness and pressure that would kill most creatures. At those depths, the pressure is more than 200 times what you're experiencing right now. It would compress your lungs to nothing, would force nitrogen into your bloodstream, causing the bends if you somehow survived and returned to the surface. But the sperm whale's body is designed for this. Its lungs collapse completely during deep dives, forcing all the air into the windpipe and nasal passages where nitrogen can't be absorbed into the bloodstream. Its muscles contain high concentrations of myoglobin, a protein that stores oxygen, allowing the whale to remain underwater long after the oxygen in its lungs is depleted. Its ribs are flexible, able to compress without breaking as the pressure increases. And the sperm whale has one more extraordinary adaptation: a massive organ in its head called the spermaceti organ, filled with a waxy substance that was historically valuable to whalers and gave the whale its name. This organ might help with buoyancy control, might focus the whale's sonar clicks into powerful beams, might do both. We're still not entirely certain. What we know is that the spermaceti organ can be over 16 feet long in large males, can weigh several tons, and is unlike anything else in the animal kingdom. This organ connects to how sperm whales hunt, which involves echolocation so powerful it can stun prey. The whale produces clicks, sharp, loud pulses of sound, that travel through the water and bounce back when they hit something. The whale interprets these echoes, building a sonic picture of its surroundings, locating squid in total darkness at depths where eyes are useless. And there's evidence that the most powerful clicks, the loudest sounds produced by any animal, reaching 230 decibels, might actually disorient or stun the squid, making them easier to catch. Sound as a weapon, evolved to work in the deep ocean where everything else fails. But sperm whales aren't the only whales using sound in extraordinary ways. Humpback whales, as we mentioned, sing songs that can last 20 minutes and be heard across thousands of miles. Only the males sing, and they sing primarily during breeding season, which suggests the songs are related to attracting mates or establishing dominance, or both. But the songs are not simple. They have structure, themes that repeat, phrases that vary, patterns that resemble syntax in language, though we can't know if they carry meaning in the way language does. And here's what's remarkable. The song changes over time. Each population of humpback whales has its own song, distinct from other populations. But within a population, all the males sing the same version in any given year. Then, gradually the song evolves. New phrases are added, old ones are modified or dropped. By the next breeding season, the song is recognizably the same but different, updated, evolved. And every male in the population learns and adopts the changes. It's cultural transmission, the passing of learned behavior from one individual to another, the kind of thing we associate with humans and a few other highly intelligent species. But here it is in Wales. Songs passing through generations, changing like oral traditions, preserving continuity while allowing innovation. What are these songs? What purpose do they serve beyond the obvious reproductive advantages? Do they carry information? Are they purely aesthetic, the whale equivalent of music for its own sake? We don't know. We've been recording and analyzing humpback songs for decades. And while we've learned much about their structure, their function remains partially mysterious. A reminder that whales have rich inner lives we can observe, but not fully access. And this connects to whale intelligence more broadly, which is difficult to measure but clearly substantial. Whales have large brains. A sperm whale's brain weighs about 17 pounds, the largest brain of any animal on Earth. Brain size alone doesn't determine intelligence, but whales also have complex brain structures, including spindle neurons, specialized cells involved in processing social emotions and decision-making, previously thought to exist only in humans and great apes. Whales have sophisticated social structures, form long-lasting bonds, cooperate in hunting, show evidence of culture. Different groups using different hunting techniques passed down through generations. There are orca populations that hunt exclusively fish, and other populations that hunt marine mammals. And these different groups use completely different strategies, different vocalizations, different social structures. The fish-eating orcas are highly vocal, using sound to coordinate their hunts and echolocate prey. The mammal-hunting orcas are much quieter, staying silent when hunting because their prey, seals, whales, dolphins, can hear them coming. These differences aren't genetic. They're learned, cultural, passed from mothers to offspring over generations. Young orcas learn their population's specific hunting techniques, vocal dialects, social rules through observation and practice, just as human children learn their culture's language and customs. This cultural transmission means that whale populations can develop distinct identities, distinct ways of being in the world, even though they're the same species genetically. And it means that when a population disappears, it's not just a genetic loss, it's a cultural loss, the erasure of knowledge that took generations to accumulate. Techniques and traditions that cannot be recovered because they existed only in the behaviors and memories of the whales that practiced them. Consider what this implies about whale experience, about their inner lives. They're not just responding to instinct. They're learning, choosing, transmitting knowledge across generations. They have culture, history, traditions. Different groups of the same species live differently, think differently, if we can use that word, because they've learned different things from their elders. This is a level of cognitive sophistication that demands we take seriously the question of what it's like to be a whale. What kind of awareness animates these enormous beings moving through the ocean? And alongside their intelligence, there's their sociality. Many whale species live in complex social groups. Sperm whales form matrilineal groups, females and their offspring staying together for life, with males leaving when they reach adolescence to live alone or in bachelor groups. These female groups cooperate in raising calves, in defending against predators, in navigating the ocean. They maintain relationships over decades, recognize individuals, coordinate their movements and activities. Humpback whales have more fluid social structures, forming temporary associations that shift and change, but they remember each other. Individuals that haven't seen each other in years will recognize one another, will interact in ways that suggest they remember their relationship. The ocean is vast, but the whales moving through it are not anonymous to each other. They know who they're with, who they've encountered before, and those relationships matter. And then there's the question of lifespan, which in some whales is extraordinary. Bowhead whales, which live in Arctic waters, can live over 200 years, 2 centuries. A bowhead whale alive today might have been born before the American Civil War, might have lived through the entire history of modern whaling, through 2 world wars, through the development of industrialized fishing, through every change humans have inflicted on the ocean. What does a whale remember across 200 years? What changes has it witnessed? We can only speculate, but the fact that these lifespans are possible, that a creature can exist for 2 human lifetimes, suggests a temporal scale of experience entirely different from ours. Most whales don't live that long. Bowheads are exceptional, but many species live 50, 60, 80 years. Long enough to develop deep knowledge of their environment, of migration routes, of feeding grounds that might only be productive in certain years. Long enough to form relationships that span decades. Long enough that the loss of an individual whale is the loss of decades of accumulated wisdom, of knowledge about where to find food in different conditions, of social bonds that structured a group's dynamics. And as you settle into stillness now, as your breathing slows and deepens, think about what it means that these creatures exist. Beings larger than any dinosaur, diving deeper than most submarines, living longer than most humans, singing songs across thousands of miles, passing knowledge across generations through teaching and observation rather than instinct alone. Whales are not simple creatures following simple patterns. They're complex, intelligent, social beings living lives as rich and meaningful to them as yours is to you. And they're doing this in an environment we can barely access, moving through a 3-dimensional space of water where up and down matter less than they do for us, where sound is the primary sense, where the pressure and cold and darkness would kill us in minutes, but are simply the conditions of existence for them. The ocean is not empty. It's full of minds, of consciousness, of beings experiencing reality in ways we can only imagine. And whales are among the most remarkable of those beings, creatures that seem almost impossible, and yet are undeniably real, swimming right now in waters both near and impossibly distant, living their ancient lives according to patterns established long before humans existed. The largest animal that has ever existed on Earth is alive right now. Not in the fossil record, not extinct, but living in our oceans. The blue whale, reaching lengths of over 100 feet and weighing as much as 200 tons. To put that in perspective, a blue whale weighs more than 30 elephants, more than 2,000 adult humans, more than the largest dinosaur we've ever discovered. And this creature, this impossibly massive being, survives by eating some of the smallest animals in the ocean. Tiny shrimp-like creatures called krill that are barely longer than your finger. A blue whale can consume 4 tons of krill in a single day during feeding season. 4 tons. That's 8,000 pounds of tiny crustaceans, filtered from the water through baleen plates that hang from the whale's upper jaw like a curtain of bristles. The whale opens its enormous mouth, takes in a massive gulp of water, sometimes 100 tons of water in a single mouthful, then closes its mouth and pushes the water back out through the baleen, which traps the krill inside. The whale's tongue, which can weigh as much as an elephant, helps push the water out. Then the whale swallows the concentrated mass of krill and repeats the process again and again, consuming thousands of pounds of food to fuel a body that requires enormous amounts of energy just to maintain its temperature and move through the water. This feeding strategy, Filter feeding on tiny prey seems counterintuitive for the largest animal on Earth. You'd expect something so massive to hunt large prey, to be a top predator taking down other large animals. But the blue whale evolved a different strategy entirely, one that's incredibly efficient in the right conditions. Krill form dense swarms in nutrient-rich waters, particularly in polar and subpolar regions, where seasonal upwelling brings nutrients to the surface and triggers massive blooms of phytoplankton. The krill feed on the phytoplankton, concentrating the ocean's primary productivity into their tiny bodies, and the blue whale feeds on the krill, gaining access to enormous amounts of energy through relatively simple feeding behavior. But this strategy only works where krill swarms are dense enough to make the energy expenditure worthwhile. Blue whales migrate thousands of miles between their feeding grounds in cold, productive waters and their breeding grounds in warmer waters where krill are scarce. They feed intensively during the summer months when krill are most abundant, building up thick layers of blubber that sustain them through the winter when they eat little or nothing. A blue whale might not feed at all for several months, living entirely off stored energy while traveling to warmer waters, giving birth and nursing calves. And this brings us to whale reproduction, which involves investments of time and energy that are staggering. A blue whale's pregnancy lasts about 11 months. The calf is born weighing 3 tons and measuring about 25 feet long, already larger than most adult terrestrial mammals. The mother nurses this calf for 6 to 7 months, producing up to 50 gallons of milk per day. Whale milk is extraordinarily rich, containing up to 50% fat, compared to about 4% in human milk. This high fat content allows the calf to grow rapidly, gaining as much as 200 pounds per day, adding layer upon layer of blubber that will insulate it and provide energy reserves. The mother, meanwhile, is depleting her own energy reserves to produce this milk, drawing down the blubber she accumulated during her feeding season. By the time the calf is weaned, the mother may have lost 25% or more of her body weight, sacrificing her own physical condition to give her offspring the best possible start. And this enormous investment means blue whales reproduce slowly. A female might give birth every 2 to 3 years at most, and sometimes longer intervals between calves. Slow reproduction makes the species vulnerable to population declines, makes recovery from overhunting difficult, means that each individual whale is precious in terms of the population's ability to persist. Which brings us to the history of whaling, which nearly erased whales from the ocean. Before industrial whaling began, there were probably 350,000 blue whales in the world's oceans. By the 1960s, after decades of intensive hunting, there were fewer than 1,000. The blue whale was brought to the edge of extinction in a span of about 50 years, hunted for its oil, which was used in lamps, in industrial lubricants, in margarine and soap, and countless other products. A single blue whale could yield 20 tons of oil, making it incredibly valuable. And when motorized ships and explosive harpoons made hunting them feasible, whalers pursued them relentlessly. The same pattern repeated for other whale species. Humpbacks, fin whales, sei whales, sperm whales. All were hunted to a fraction of their original numbers. Some populations were completely eliminated. The North Atlantic right whale, which got its name because it was the right whale to hunt, slow-moving, stayed near coastlines, floated when killed, was reduced to perhaps a few dozen individuals. Today, despite decades of protection, there are only about 350 North Atlantic right whales left, and the population is declining, pushed toward extinction not by hunting now but by ship strikes and entanglement in fishing gear. The recovery of whale populations since the end of commercial whaling in most parts of the world has been slow, uneven, and incomplete. Some species are rebounding. Humpback populations have recovered substantially in many areas, and you can now see humpback whales in places where they'd been absent for decades. Blue whales are slowly increasing, but remain at a tiny fraction of their historical numbers. Some populations, like the North Atlantic right whale, continue to decline despite protection. The ocean they're trying to survive in is not the same ocean their ancestors knew. It's louder, more polluted, more heavily trafficked, more thoroughly exploited by industrial fishing. The challenges whales face now are different from hunting, but no less serious. One of the most pervasive threats is noise. The ocean is filled with human-generated sound, shipping traffic, sonar, seismic surveys for oil and gas, underwater construction. Sound travels far and fast in water, and these noises can be heard across entire ocean basins. For whales, which rely on sound for communication, navigation, and finding food, this noise pollution is like living in a constant roar, like trying to have a conversation at a rock concert that never ends. Whales must call louder to be heard over the background noise, which requires more energy. They may be separated from their groups because they can't hear each other's calls. Their stress levels increase. Some evidence suggests that intense sonar can cause whales to alter their diving behavior in ways that lead to the bends, to strandings, to death. And alongside noise, there's the physical danger of ships. A whale surfacing to breathe in a busy shipping lane can be struck by a vessel moving too fast to avoid collision. For large whales like blues and fins and rights, ship strikes are a major source of mortality. Many whales bear scars from propeller strikes they survived. Many others don't survive. The bodies that wash ashore often show evidence of blunt force trauma, broken bones, massive internal injuries from being hit by ships whose crews never even knew they'd struck something. Then there's entanglement in fishing gear, nets, lines, traps set for fish or crustaceans but lethal to whales that swim into them. A whale caught in a net or with fishing line wrapped around its body or tail might drown immediately if it can't reach the surface to breathe. Or it might carry the gear for weeks or months, the lines cutting deeper into its flesh, restricting movement, causing infections, slowly killing through exhaustion and starvation. Many whales bear scars from entanglements they survived, evidence of encounters with fishing gear that they managed to escape, or that eventually broke away. But the scars tell of suffering, of struggling against restraints that the whale can't understand or remove. These are the ways whales die now, in an ocean altered by human activity. And yet they persist, these creatures that once migrated through oceans full of their own kind, whose songs would have filled the water, whose populations were so large that they shaped the ecology of entire ocean regions. They're still here, still singing, still diving, still giving birth to the next generation, though in numbers that are shadows of what once was. But let's return to the whales themselves, to their extraordinary adaptations and behaviors. Consider the gray whale's migration, which is one of the longest of any mammal, up to 12,000 miles round trip from feeding grounds in the Arctic to breeding lagoons in Baja California. These whales travel close to coastlines, navigating by landmarks, by the contours of the seafloor, by magnetic cues we're only beginning to understand. They make this journey every year, mothers accompanied by calves born the previous season. The calves learning the route by following their mothers, memorizing the landmarks and turns that will guide them for the rest of their lives. And when they reach the lagoons where they breed and give birth, the gray whales engage in behavior that's both intimate and mysterious. The warm, shallow lagoons provide protection for newborn calves, shelter from storms and predators, calm water where mothers can nurse and bond with their offspring. The whales seem to seek out specific lagoons, returning to the same places generation after generation, suggesting that knowledge of these locations is passed down, that mothers teach their calves not just the route but the destination, the safe harbors where new life begins. There's something profound about this, about animals traveling thousands of miles to reach specific places they've never seen before, if they're making the journey for the first time, guided by their mothers, learning a route that their ancestors have followed for thousands of years. The migration is both individual, each whale swimming through its own experience of the journey, and collective, a tradition maintained across generations, a knowledge of the ocean's geography encoded in behavior and memory, rather than genes. And migrations like this are happening across the ocean, different species following different routes, moving between feeding and breeding grounds, tracking seasonal changes in food availability, in water temperature, in ice cover. Humpbacks migrate from Antarctica to tropical waters and back. Bowheads move with the ice edge in the Arctic, finding leads, open water channels through the ice that allow them to access feeding areas. Right whales migrate along continental shelves, following the currents where their prey, tiny copepods, accumulate. Each species has its pattern, its rhythm, its connection to specific places and conditions. What must the ocean feel like to a whale making these journeys? They're moving through a landscape of temperature gradients, current flows, underwater topography, acoustic environments that change with depth and location. They're finding their way through a three-dimensional space that's far more complex than the two-dimensional world we navigate on land. And they're doing this while maintaining social connections, staying in contact with their group, caring for offspring, finding food, avoiding danger. The cognitive demands must be substantial, requiring memory, spatial reasoning, the integration of multiple sensory streams into a coherent understanding of where they are and where they're going. And consider the sensory world of a whale more generally. Sight is limited. The ocean is murky. Light penetrates only the upper layers, and at depth there's no light at all. But sound. Sound travels far and carries rich information. A whale can hear the calls of other whales hundreds of miles away. It can use echolocation to build detailed sonic pictures of its immediate surroundings. It can detect storms, underwater earthquakes, the sounds of ice forming or breaking, all through variations in the acoustic environment. The ocean, to a whale, is a soundscape, a space defined by what can be heard rather than what can be seen. And in this soundscape, the whale's own voice is its primary tool for connection, for announcing its presence, for maintaining bonds with others across distances that would make visual communication impossible. When a mother and calf are separated, they call to each other, exchanging vocalizations that allow them to reunite. When a group is hunting cooperatively, they coordinate through calls, each whale knowing where the others are, what they're doing, maintaining the formation that makes their hunting successful. When it's breeding season, males sing or call to advertise their presence, to compete with other males, to attract females. The complexity of whale vocalizations is staggering. Each species has its own repertoire of sounds. Some, like the humpback song, are structured and lengthy. Others are shorter calls serving specific functions. Some are social, maintaining group cohesion, expressing emotion, coordinating activity. Others are functional, echolocation clicks for navigation and hunting. Some might be individual, signature calls that identify specific whales, allowing others to recognize who's calling from the distinctive pattern of sounds. And as you lie here now, your own breathing slowing into the rhythm of approaching sleep, think about what it means to live in a world of sound rather than sight, to move through darkness using echoes, to maintain relationships across miles through calls that travel through water, to know the ocean not as something seen, but as something heard and felt. The whale's experience is radically different from yours, And yet there are parallels. The need for connection, for understanding one's environment, for remembering important locations and routes, for caring for offspring, for continuing despite challenges. The whale is not trying to be anything other than what it is, a creature perfectly adapted to life in the ocean, using the senses evolution has refined over millions of years, following patterns established long before humans existed. And in that pure adaptation, that complete belonging to its environment, there's something we can learn from. Something about acceptance and presence and existing fully in whatever reality we find ourselves inhabiting. There's a behavior that humpback whales engage in that scientists call bubble net feeding, and it's one of the most sophisticated cooperative hunting strategies in the animal kingdom. A group of humpback whales will coordinate to surround a school of fish or krill. Then one or more whales will dive deep and begin swimming in an upward spiral while releasing air from their blowholes. The bubbles rise and form a cylindrical net, a wall of bubbles that the fish won't cross because it looks like a barrier, like something solid. The fish cluster together in the center of the bubble column, concentrating into a dense ball, while the whales spiral upward beneath them. Then, at a precise moment coordinated through calls, all the whales surge upward through the center of the bubble net with their mouths open, engulfing thousands of fish in a single gulp. This requires planning, coordination. Each whale must know its role, must time its movements with the others, must understand the overall strategy and execute its part perfectly. And different groups of humpback whales use slightly different variations of this technique. Some create a single bubble spiral, others create multiple spirals. Some add vocalizations that seem to startle the fish and make them bunch even tighter. These variations are learned, passed from experienced whales to younger ones through observation and practice, refined over generations into local traditions that make each population's bubble netting slightly distinct. What does it require, cognitively, to execute such a hunt? The whale must understand that bubbles will constrain the fish's movement, must coordinate with other whales through signals we're only beginning to decode, must maintain its position in the spiral while adjusting for the movements of both the fish and the other whales, must time the final surge perfectly to maximize the catch. This is not instinct alone. This is learned behavior requiring intelligence, cooperation, communication, the kind of complex action we associate with dolphins, with primates, with species we acknowledge as cognitively sophisticated. And it reveals something essential about how we should think about whales. They're not simple creatures following hardwired behaviors. They're problem solvers, tool users in a sense, using bubbles as tools to manipulate prey. Social learners who transmit cultural knowledge across generations. Each whale is an individual with its own experiences, its own learned skills, its own place in a social network that extends across space and time. To kill a whale is not just to remove one organism from the ecosystem. It's to erase a mind, a unique perspective on the world, a carrier of cultural knowledge that took years to acquire and cannot be replaced. Which brings us back to questions of consciousness, of what it's like to be a whale, of whether these creatures have inner lives that matter morally in ways we're obligated to consider. We can never know subjective experience directly. You can't know what I experience, and I can't know what you experience. And neither of us can know what a whale experiences. But we can observe behavior, can study brain structure, can look for markers of complex cognition and emotional depth. Whales have large brains with sophisticated structures. They have limbic systems, the parts of the brain associated with emotion, that are proportionally larger and more elaborate than ours. They have those spindle neurons we mentioned, specialized cells involved in processing social information, experiencing emotions like love and grief, making rapid intuitive judgments. These neurons were thought to be uniquely human, then were found in great apes, then in elephants, and then in whales, species that are evolutionarily distant from us, but that face similar social and cognitive challenges, suggesting these cells evolved independently multiple times because they solve important problems related to living in complex social groups. And we see behaviors in whales that suggest rich emotional lives. Mother whales grieving over dead calves, carrying them at the surface for days or weeks, unwilling to let go. Whales supporting injured companions, helping them to the surface to breathe, staying with them even when it puts the helpers at risk. Orcas engaging in what looks like play, chasing each other, leaping, splashing, tossing seaweed back and forth, doing things that serve no obvious survival function but that look like pure enjoyment, like joy for its own sake. There are documented cases of whales helping other species, humpbacks intervening when orcas attack seals, physically placing themselves between the orcas and their prey, driving the orcas away. Sometimes the protected animal is a seal or sea lion. Sometimes it's another whale species. Sometimes it's not clear if the humpbacks even recognize what they're protecting. They seem to respond to the signature hunting behaviors of orcas, to the splashing and commotion, and intervene almost automatically. But why would they do this? The behavior doesn't benefit them directly, might even put them at risk. Is it altruism? Antipathy toward orcas based on past conflicts? Some deeper pro-social instinct we don't fully understand? We don't know, but the behavior suggests that whales respond to the distress of other beings, that they're capable of acting on behalf of others even when there's no immediate personal benefit. These observations push us toward acknowledging that whales are sentient beings with their own interests, their own capacity for suffering and flourishing, their own value independent of any utility to humans. And this acknowledgement creates ethical obligations. Obligations to protect whale populations, to preserve their habitats, to minimize the harm we cause through our activities in the ocean. Not because whales are useful to us, though they are. Their bodies after death fall to the ocean floor and provide nutrients to deep-sea ecosystems, supporting entire communities of organisms for years or decades. Not because they're beautiful, though they are, but because they matter in themselves, because their lives have value to them, because the subjective experience of being a whale, whatever that experience is like, deserves consideration in how we act. And this connects to something broader about our relationship with the ocean and its inhabitants. For most of human history, we treated the ocean as infinite, as something that could absorb any amount of exploitation without consequence. We took whales by the hundreds of thousands. We took fish by the billions. We dumped waste, ran shipping lanes anywhere we wanted, made noise without consideration for who might be listening, assumed the ocean's vastness meant our impact would be negligible. We were wrong. The ocean is vast, but not infinite. Its capacity to sustain life is enormous, but not unlimited. And we're seeing the consequences now. Collapsed fish stocks, dead zones from pollution, coral reefs bleaching and dying, species driven to extinction, ecosystems simplified and degraded. The whales swimming through this degraded ocean are survivors of the worst we've done, and they're facing new challenges that compound the historical damage. Climate change is altering ocean temperatures and currents, shifting the distribution of prey species, making traditional feeding grounds less productive. Plastic pollution is filling the ocean, and whales consume it, filtering microplastics along with their prey, larger pieces blocking their digestive systems. Chemical pollutants accumulate in their blubber, affecting their health and reproductive success. And yet, The whales continue. They adapt where they can, shift their ranges to follow changing food distributions, modify their behaviors in response to new conditions. They're resilient, these creatures, survivors of 50 million years of environmental change, of ice ages and warming periods and sea level fluctuations. But resilience has limits. There's a point beyond which adaptation can't keep pace with change, beyond which populations can't recover from repeated stresses. Some whale populations are already at that point. The North Atlantic right whale declining toward extinction despite our efforts to save them. The vaquita nearly gone with fewer than a dozen individuals remaining. Other populations so reduced that recovery seems unlikely without intervention so intensive it borders on desperation. This is what we stand to lose. Not just species, but entire ways of being in the world. Evolutionary lineages that stretch back tens of millions of years. Cultural traditions developed and refined across thousands of generations. When the last North Atlantic right whale dies, we lose not just a genetic line, but the accumulated knowledge of that population. Their migration routes, their feeding grounds, their songs, their social structures. All of it goes extinct with them, becomes silence where there was once voice, absence where there was presence. But let's not dwell only in loss. Let's return to the wonder, to the extraordinary fact that whales still exist, that you can still go to certain places at certain times and see these impossible creatures in their element. There are places where gray whales approach boats in their breeding lagoons, where mothers bring their calves close enough to touch, seemingly curious about humans, unafraid despite the history of hunting. There are places where humpbacks breach repeatedly, launching their enormous bodies completely out of the water and crashing back down in explosions of spray. And no one knows exactly why they do this, whether it's communication or play or some other behavior we don't understand. But it's spectacular, joyful in a way that transcends species. There are places where blue whales still feed in concentrations that give a glimpse of what the ocean once was, where you can see multiple individuals surfacing, diving, the enormous flukes rising and sliding beneath the water, the massive bodies moving with a grace that seems impossible for something so large. There are places where orcas hunt cooperatively, where you can watch them working together with precision and intelligence that rivals any predator on land, their distinctive black and white patterns making them easy to follow as they move through the water. These experiences, witnessing whales in the wild, are becoming important not just for scientific understanding, but for building the emotional and cultural connection that might motivate real protection. It's one thing to know intellectually that whales exist. It's another thing entirely to see a whale surface beside your boat, to make eye contact with an animal whose eye is the size of a grapefruit, to feel the spray from its blowhole on your face, to hear the sound of its breathing, a massive exhalation that's been described as sounding like wind through a canyon. That direct encounter creates connection, creates the sense that this is a being, an individual, someone rather than something. And this connects to how indigenous cultures have related to whales for thousands of years, with respect, with recognition of the whale as a being worthy of consideration, with rituals and protocols around hunting that acknowledge the significance of taking a whale's life. These cultures understood, long before Western science confirmed it, that whales are special, that they're intelligent and social and important in ways that go beyond their physical bodies. The knowledge embedded in indigenous whaling traditions about whale behavior, migration, the ocean's rhythms, has been accumulating for millennia, and it's knowledge that Western researchers are increasingly recognizing as valuable, as complementary to scientific understanding. There are stories, oral histories passed down through generations, about whales that lived for many human lifetimes, about individual whales that were recognized across decades, about relationships between human communities and specific whale populations that shaped both groups' identities and practices. These stories encode ecological knowledge, yes, but also something deeper, an understanding of whales as persons in their own right, as beings with whom humans share the world rather than resources to be exploited. And this understanding, this way of relating to whales and the ocean more broadly, might be what we need now. Not just scientific knowledge about whale biology and behavior, though that's essential. Not just regulations and protected areas and enforcement against illegal whaling, though those are necessary. But a fundamental shift in how we think about our relationship with the ocean and its inhabitants. Away from exploitation and toward coexistence. Away from human exceptionalism and toward recognition that we're one species among many. That we share this planet with beings whose lives matter, whose continuation enriches the world in ways that go beyond any utility to us. The ocean is not empty. It's full of life, of minds, of beings experiencing the world in ways we can barely imagine, but that are real and valid and worthy of consideration. Whales are perhaps the most dramatic examples of this. Enormous, intelligent, social creatures living lives of complexity and richness, entirely beyond our direct experience. They communicate across thousands of miles. They pass cultural knowledge across generations. They form bonds that last decades. They grieve their dead. They help each other. They play. They sing. And as you drift now towards sleep, as consciousness softens and boundaries blur, think about this. Somewhere in the ocean right now, a whale is singing. Perhaps it's a humpback, working through the complex phrases of this season's song, updating last year's version with new variations, broadcasting into the water around it, knowing that other males are listening, learning, adapting their own songs to match. Perhaps it's a blue whale, producing calls so low frequency that humans can't hear them without special equipment. Calls that travel thousands of miles through ocean waveguides, reaching whales on the other side of an ocean basin, maintaining connection across impossible distances. Perhaps it's a mother whale calling to her calf, teaching it the sounds of their family, the vocalizations that will help the calf recognize its kin throughout its life. Perhaps it's an old whale, one of the survivors of the whaling era, carrying memories of an ocean that was more full, more alive with the voices of its kind, singing now in waters that are quieter than they were, lonelier, but singing still because that's what whales do. Because the impulse to communicate, to reach out across the dark water toward others of its kind, is fundamental to what it means to be a whale. The song continues, the whales continue, and in their continuation, in their persistence despite everything, there's something worth preserving, something worth fighting for, something that makes the world richer, stranger, more wonderful than it would be in their absence. Rest with that knowledge. Let it settle into you as you settle into sleep. The whales are out there, living their impossible lives. And that fact alone is worth celebrating, worth protecting, worth carrying with you into dreams. There's a phenomenon that happens when a whale dies, something called a whale fall, and it's one of the most extraordinary ecological events in the deep ocean. When a whale's body sinks to the ocean floor, often at depths of several thousand feet where sunlight never reaches, it becomes an oasis of life in an otherwise barren landscape. A single whale carcass can support a complex ecosystem for decades, sometimes for more than 50 years, going through distinct stages of colonization as different organisms exploit different aspects of this massive food source that's fallen from the world above. In the first stage, mobile scavengers, hagfish, sleeper sharks, giant isopods, descend on the carcass, consuming the soft tissue, A single whale might feed these scavengers for months or even years, representing more concentrated energy than these deep-sea creatures typically encounter in their entire lives. Then come the opportunistic colonizers, polychaete worms, crustaceans, mollusks, that consume the remaining scraps, the bones still rich with oils and fats. And finally, the most extraordinary stage. Specialized bacteria that can break down the lipids in whale bones colonize the skeleton. And these bacteria support entire communities of organisms that exist nowhere else on Earth. Species of clams, mussels, worms that are found only on whale falls, adapted specifically to this unusual environment, waiting in the deep for whales to die and bring them life. This reveals something profound about how whales shape the ocean even in death. A great whale, a blue whale, a fin whale, a right whale, contains tons of nutrients that it's accumulated throughout its life, concentrated in its enormous body. When that whale dies and sinks, it transfers those nutrients from the surface waters where it fed to the deep ocean floor, creating an island of abundance in a food-poor environment. And because whale falls are relatively rare, there are many fewer whales now than there were historically. These specialized communities exist in isolated patches scattered across the ocean floor. Each whale fall a temporary refuge, sustaining unique biodiversity until the bones are finally consumed, and the community must somehow find its way to the next whale fall, which might be dozens or hundreds of miles away. This process has been happening for millions of years, ever since the first large whales evolved. There are species that have evolved to depend on whale falls, that cannot complete their life cycles without them. What happens to these species as whale populations decline, as whale falls become rarer, as the distance between oases increases beyond what these organisms can traverse? We don't know yet, but it's another way that the loss of whales ripples through ecosystems, affecting life in ways and places we wouldn't immediately predict. And whale falls are just one example of how whales influence the broader ocean ecosystem. Living whales shape their environments in ways we're only beginning to understand. They're nutrient pumps, feeding at depth or in one location, and defecating at the surface or in another location, redistributing nutrients across horizontal and vertical gradients. Their feces are particularly important for phytoplankton, microscopic plants that form the base of the ocean food web and produce much of Earth's oxygen. Whale feces are rich in iron and nitrogen, nutrients that often limit phytoplankton growth in the open ocean. And when whales defecate near the surface, they're effectively fertilizing the ocean, stimulating phytoplankton blooms that support entire food webs. There's a concept called the whale pump that describes this process. And research suggests that historical whale populations, before industrial whaling, might have significantly enhanced ocean productivity through their nutrient cycling. With fewer whales now, the ocean is less productive than it was, which means less food for fish, less carbon sequestration by phytoplankton, less oxygen production, cascading effects that extend far beyond the whales themselves. And whales also influence their prey populations in complex ways. When whales feed on krill or fish, they're exerting top-down control on those populations, preventing any single age class or species from dominating, maintaining diversity and ecosystem balance. Remove the whales, and prey populations can fluctuate wildly, sometimes crashing when environmental conditions change because there's no predator buffering the extremes. The relationships between predators and prey are not simple. Predators don't just reduce prey numbers, they stabilize them, keep them healthy by culling the weak, maintain the conditions that allow diverse communities to coexist. This is why the absence of whales matters ecologically, why efforts to restore whale populations are important, not just for the whales, but for ocean health broadly. An ocean with whales is more stable, more productive, more resilient than an ocean without them. The whales are not separate from the ecosystem. They're integral parts of it, influencing nutrient cycles, food web structure, community composition at every level, from the microscopic to the enormous. But beyond their ecological roles, beyond even their intelligence and emotional sophistication, there's something else worth considering as you lie here approaching sleep. Whales represent possibility. The possibility of beings radically different from us living lives that are complete and meaningful in their own terms. They don't need technology or tools in the way we do. They don't build structures or create art that we'd recognize as art, though their songs might be a form of it. They don't have written language or recorded history, and yet they navigate vast distances, maintain complex social relationships, transmit knowledge across generations, experience emotions, make choices, respond flexibly to changing conditions. They are profoundly successful as organisms, as species, as evolutionary lineages. And this success was achieved through adaptation to an environment that would kill us in minutes. Cold water, immense pressure, darkness, the need to hold breath for extended periods, the three-dimensional space of the ocean that requires navigation without landmarks. Whales are proof that intelligence and consciousness can take forms very different from ours, can arise through different evolutionary paths, can serve different functions while remaining recognizably complex and sophisticated. What does this tell us about the nature of mind, of awareness, of what's possible for life to become? If consciousness evolved independently in primates and in whales, lineages that diverged tens of millions of years ago, then consciousness might not be rare. It might emerge whenever certain conditions are met, whenever the complexity of the environment and the demands of survival favor cognitive sophistication. The universe might be full of minds, taking forms we can barely imagine, experiencing reality through sensory systems unlike ours, thinking thoughts that don't map onto our categories, but that are nonetheless real, valid, meaningful to the beings thinking them. Whales offer us a glimpse of this possibility, a reminder that Earth itself hosts forms of consciousness that are alien to our experience. We don't have to look to other planets to find beings whose inner lives are mysterious to us. They're here, in our oceans, swimming through waters that cover most of our planet, living lives that intersect with ours in ways we're only beginning to understand. And this brings us back to questions of coexistence, of how we share this planet with beings whose needs sometimes conflict with ours, whose habitats we've altered, whose survival depends partly on our choices. The ocean we've created through our activities, noisier, warmer, more acidic, more thoroughly exploited, is a harder place for whales to live than the ocean their ancestors knew. But it's the only ocean they have, the only ocean we have. And the question now is whether we can change our behavior enough to allow whales not just to survive, but to thrive, to recover something approaching their historical abundance, to fill the ocean with their songs again. This requires more than just stopping whaling, though that was essential. It requires managing shipping routes to reduce collisions, modifying fishing gear to prevent entanglement, reducing noise pollution from industrial activities, addressing climate change and ocean acidification, protecting critical habitats from development and disturbance. It requires seeing whales not as resources or attractions, but as fellow beings with their own right to exist, their own claim on the ocean that's at least as valid as ours. And here's what gives hope. These things are possible. We've shown we can change. Commercial whaling ended in most of the world because people decided it was wrong, because the value of living whales outweighed the value of products derived from their bodies. Whale populations are recovering in some areas because we've given them protection, because we've created spaces where they can live without constant disturbance. We can see the results of our restraint, can witness the return of whales to places they'd been absent from for generations. There are children now who've seen whales in the wild, who've made that connection, who carry with them the knowledge that these creatures exist and matter. There are communities whose economies benefit more from whale watching than they ever did from whaling, who have incentives to protect whales because living whales bring visitors, bring revenue, bring opportunities that dead whales never could. There are researchers uncovering new facts about whale biology and behavior every year, expanding our understanding, revealing complexity we hadn't imagined. There are artists and writers and filmmakers creating works that celebrate whales, that communicate their importance to audiences who might never see a whale but who can still appreciate their significance. All of this creates momentum toward a future where whales persist, where the ocean contains not just remnant populations struggling to survive, but thriving communities of these magnificent beings living their full, complex lives. It's not inevitable. There are still threats, still conflicts between conservation and other uses of the ocean, still species on the edge of extinction that might not recover. But it's possible. The path exists. We know what needs to be done. The question is whether we have the collective will to do it, whether we value whales enough to make the necessary changes, whether we can see past short-term interests to the longer view where an ocean full of whales is richer, more wonderful, more worth preserving than one where they're gone. And in the quiet of this moment, as your consciousness begins its own dive into the depths of sleep, consider what you carry forward from this time we've spent together, exploring these extraordinary beings. Perhaps it's wonder at their size, at the fact that the largest animal ever to exist is alive right now. Perhaps it's appreciation for their intelligence, their social sophistication, their cultural traditions that predate human civilization. Perhaps it's the image of a whale singing in darkness, reaching out across impossible distances toward others of its kind. Perhaps it's simply the recognition that whales exist, that they're real, that they matter. Whatever you carry, know that it has value. Every person who understands something about whales, who cares about their survival, who makes choices, large or small, that support conservation, that person is part of the solution. Change happens through accumulated small actions as much as through grand gestures. Awareness matters. Connection matters. Caring matters. The whales don't know we're thinking about them, don't know about the debates over their protection, or the research trying to understand them. They're simply living, doing what their ancestors have done for millions of years, following patterns encoded in genes and culture, moving through the ocean with purpose and grace. They'll continue whether we pay attention or not, at least for a while, though their future abundance depends on choices we're making now. And they deserve to continue, deserve the ocean their evolution shaped them for, deserve our recognition and respect and protection. So rest now, knowing that somewhere in the ocean, right now as you drift toward sleep, whales are engaged in the activities of their lives. A mother is nursing her calf, passing not just milk but protection, teaching, the beginning of all the knowledge the calf will need. A male is singing, pouring his voice into the water, part of a tradition older than language. A group is hunting cooperatively, coordinating through calls and movements perfected through practice. An old whale is migrating, following routes it's traveled for decades, carrying memories of the ocean as it was, witnessing the ocean as it is. They're all there, all real, all living their impossible lives in an element we can barely access. And in their continuation, in their persistence through all we've done and all they've survived, there's something worthy of our deepest respect, our most careful consideration, our commitment to ensuring they remain not just as remnants, but as thriving communities filling the ocean with their presence. If this journey through the world of whales has meant something to you, if you've found value in exploring these quiet mysteries, I'd be grateful if you'd subscribe. These conversations continue, these explorations of the profound and extraordinary, the overlooked and magnificent. And having you along makes them more meaningful. Sleep well now. Let your thoughts drift like a whale diving deep, descending into darkness where pressure increases and sound becomes everything, where the world is reduced to essential sensations and the steady rhythm of existence continues. The whales are out there, in the vast and mysterious ocean, singing their songs, living their lives, carrying forward a lineage that stretches back 50 million years and reaches toward a future we can help shape. They're still here. For now, they're still here. And that fact alone, that simple fact of their continued existence, is worth everything. Worth our attention, our protection, our commitment to ensuring they remain long after we're gone, long after our civilization is just another layer in the fossil record. The whales still singing, still diving, still impossible, still here. Sweet dreams. May you swim in deep waters. May you hear distant songs. May you carry with you always the knowledge that Earth holds wonders beyond imagining, and whales are among the greatest of them. Rest well.